broken in the light? Am I hurting? Am I sad? Should I stay or should I go? I've forgotten how to tell. Did I ever even know? Can I take another step? I've done everything I can. All the people that I see, I will never understand. If I find a way to change, if I step into the light, it'll never be the same, and it all will fade to white. I've forgotten if I can. If I open up my eyes, there'd be no more